To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of My Take, Elections 2020. We've been off for a few days of last week because of some networking issues and some personal time, but we're back on the train and we're rolling, talking about this election cycle. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us and watch us on Trend Africa TV. And if you have not liked the Trend Africa TV page, please go ahead and like and subscribe on that page for more editions of My Take, which would air every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Central Time and 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So at length last week, we talked about the introduction of Kamala Harris and she being a formidable candidate for vice president and also being ready on day one to be president. So that has been established. So the ball has been ready, has started, and we're actually in the middle half of the game because the Democratic Convention just concluded recently. It was a virtual event that concluded, and it was amazing speeches. Joe Biden's speech was through the roof. Amazing. Kamala Harris's speech was through the roof. It was amazing. And President Obama and Michelle Obama gave amazing speeches as well. Today, we want to talk about registration to vote. It's enough said to just talk about election cycles, but we need to be involved in the process. So if you're an immigrant and you're a naturalized citizen and you have, most importantly, you have children. So if you're a mother, you're a father, you're a single mother, you're a single father, and you have children that look up to you, you have to make this as an obligation. You have to pass down this. And this is why I say it's important that you vote. Let's look at Kamala Harris's history and let's see if her history is a replica of your history. And what is it that you channel down to your children so that in the next 30 years, we can be talking about your children, we can be talking about my children, we can be talking about future immigrant children who are climbing up the ladder in this country. Kamala Harris' mother, who was born in India, traveled for a PhD program from here to study a PhD program in America. So she got to America. She met a man, Donald Harris, who would later be Kamala Harris's dad. They had two beautiful girls. So the father is from Jamaica and the mother is from India. Does that say exactly your story? You left whatever African country you left and you got to America. You are in Maryland, you're in Chicago, you're in Illinois, you're in Texas. you're in California, you're in New York, you're in Wisconsin, you're in Minnesota, you're in North Dakota, you're in Hawaii, you're in Florida, wherever you find yourself, you're an immigrant and you're married to somebody, or you're not married and you're living a fulfilling life as a single person, but you do have children. So as a single, because Kamala Harris's mother ended up as a single mother because she did separate with her husband when she was 4, and she had to raise both girls as a single mother. So we do understand the importance and contributions of single mothers in the society. So you out there being a single mother is not an excuse for you not to vote. It's not an excuse for you not to pass down the inheritance, the importance of civic duty to your children. Be it that you're from Africa, you're from the Caribbean, you're from Asia. We saw an immigrant woman who came here pursuing a PhD degree and getting married and separating from her man and raising 2 Black girls in America in the 60s and 70s, until now one of those girls it's a nominee for on a major party's ticket for vice president. So that should speak to you. Are you an immigrant who has acquired the U.S. citizenship? You should be registered to vote. You should register, and you should take your kids with you to the registration pool. And well, now because of COVID, you cannot go out to the polls, but you have to do it online. You have to tell your kids about the dream. You have to tell your kids about the aspiration to be great. You have to tell your kids about Kamala Harris' mother, a single mother, a PhD degree, a doctor, a cancer researcher, who foster the knowledge that civic duty and civic obligation is core to the center of this country. So I'm very happy that on Wednesday, I spoke to one of my very good friends. She's a single mother of 3, a hard-working woman of 3. And I told her, listen, you need to go vote. And she told me, I don't care about voting. I don't care who wins. I don't care who. I'm like, that's okay. We're not gonna debate the context of your politics, but I'm worried about the message you're sending to your children, because if you don't vote, you're telling your children that they should not become civic duty citizens as they grow, and they're American citizens as well. And I had a one-on-one conversation, and after about 4 or 5 hours, she sent me a screenshot that she had registered to vote, and she would make it a duty to pass on that knowledge to her children. And that was impressive. That was something I felt very confident. I felt like on my Monday show, we're going to talk about, because there's a lot of Africans out there who just don't care about the voting cycle, but they have American children. My question to you is, what are you teaching your American children? What are you telling them about the election process? What are you telling them about growing and achieving and becoming district attorneys and becoming attorney generals and becoming the first African a daughter to be a vice presidential candidate? We already have the first Black woman, but we also need to have the first child from Ghana, the first child from Cameroon, the first girl from Nigeria, the first boy from Botswana, the first boy from South Africa to run to run on a major ticket. Obama, we could say he's from Kenya, but we need one of us. We need those of us that are here to have that same representation. We need those of us here to talk to our kids, to make them dream, to make them aspire to the highest office. Africans, we need to stand up and be counted. We need to be represented, for our voices to be heard. We need to have a political bloc, and that starts by registration. I did a survey, and in 2018, there were 2.7 million Indians in America. So 2.7 million Indians. Now I will ask you, India is a country of 1.24 billion people. Africa is a continent, not a country. Africa is a continent of 1.45 billion people. So we are right there about in population size with India and China, right? But they're all in all, there are 2.7 million Indians in America. Now, I want to ask, how many Africans do you think are in America? Do you think there are up to 2.7 million Africans in America, or do you think there are more? And you know why that statistics is not available? Because we don't register to vote. We don't get ourselves counted. So there's no database for Africans in America. But because Indians are a block, we are able to say there are 2.7 million Indians in America. And that sounds like a small number, given that they have vast communities. If you look at Illinois, you look at Naperville, you look at Devon, you look at different communities where there are heavy Indian presence in those communities. You want to think that there are more Indians in America. But now I will ask you, so if you hear the number 2.7 and you think Africa, do you think we're up to 2.7 and that needs to change? We need to start now. We need to register to vote. We need to teach our kids, our young girls. We need so many Black, brown, and different minority girls running for office, and that does not happen if we don't vote and we don't tell our children about the importance of voting. We'll take a commercial break right now, and we'll come back in a second and continue on this conversation. Thank you.
TV, redefining Africa.
Are you looking for photography service for your upcoming event? Is it a wedding, an engagement, or a special event? Look no further. Jojo Texan Images is here. Hire him today for great quality pictures, a quality service provided on the day, and a great personality. Jojo Texan Images is on social media. Follow him Instagram and Facebook at Jojo Texan Images, or call him 312-450-5235 and book your appointments today. Jojo Texan Images. Simply excellent. Book him now.
Thank you for being patient and welcome back to My Take Elections 2020. We were talking about the importance of registering and actually voting and the cascading effect, the effects that trickles down to your family, to your kids, and passing on that legacy that would leave onto your kids, and your kids would have ambitions and drive and dedication to foster, to introduce a new era. Like I said, there are not enough minority women. There are not enough women of color within the political sphere. And half the time, we don't even have enough African women within that political space. So it starts by us, the parents, us, the adults, talking about elections, voting, and having these conversations in the presence of our kids and teaching them the importance of voting, the importance of serving in political office, because the changes that you want does not happen. Nobody is going to come do that change for you. Only you are going to implement the change, and you're going to vote for such changes, and you're going to teach your kids to become activists, to become politically engaged and politically involved. This is how we have our daughters, our sons get into office, and someday we see them on the presidential ticket. We see them on gubernatorial tickets. We see them on senatorial tickets. We see them on Congress tickets. So we want more Africans to be present to be present within that political space. Now, every state is different, and because of COVID, most people are not going to vote in person. So most people are going to vote by ballot, mail-in ballots. So what you need to do is, first of all, register. What are the conditions to register? The first and most important, you must be a citizen of the United States of America, which means you've acquired your citizenship and or you were born here. But whatever be the case, you are a U.S. citizen. That is the first and most important criteria. And you are eligible to vote, because we do have some people for who, and there's a lot of fight to change that, for who have some criminal past that would preclude them or not allow them to vote. If you have like a felony or something like that, might not affect you. But however, it should not stop you telling somebody. If you know any citizen, if you know of anybody who is eligible to vote, you should tell them that they need to register to vote. And like I said, this election cycle is so important, but the reason to vote is that people fought and died for your right to vote. People fought to give you this right. So it's important that you exercise this right. It is important that you pass on the importance of this right onto your kids and your family members, so we can continue that legacy. And also, most importantly, so we can get counted. We should know the number. I was talking earlier on the number of Africans, that are within the United States of America. So we can start a database, we can start a political bloc, we can start a movement for those Africans. Because if you know for a fact that there are 1 million Africans in America, then you could start some kind of process. You could start a database to get all of these Africans on a platform where we can address African issues. We can move the African agenda. We can have an African school system, like the Jewish have an African system. The Jewish people have a Jewish school system. The Muslims have a Muslim school system. So if you have an African, a database of 1 million people, that is pretty plenty. So you could start a school and you have a curriculum that reflects the African culture, the African Black background. And that's one of the things that America offers you. So one of the important things that you need to also consider why going to vote is so you should get counted. So you should be taken into consideration. Your voice should be heard. Your drive and principles should be taken into consideration. So I was talking about you being a U.S. citizen. Next, be a resident of your state. So I will talk about those in Illinois, since I'm based in Illinois. So be a resident of the state of Illinois. You should have had a change of address. If you were coming from another state, you should be a resident. A resident is usually considered having lived in that state for 6 months. So if you've just moved, maybe you need to check with your previous state to see if you still qualify as a resident of that state, or if you qualify as a resident of Illinois. So and that would apply in every other state. If you're a resident of Maine, if you're a resident of South Dakota, North Dakota, you want to call your elections board. Right now is the time to call. They're answering the phones and they're responding to the messages or to the call, and they will be able to guide you where you're eligible to vote at, if that's your state or if you're out of state. Also, if you're an American and you're residing in another country, you are still eligible to vote. You need to register and vote at your nearest U.S. consulate. That's where you're going to vote. You need to make that known that you're currently not residing in the U.S., but you're residing outside. So if you're in Ghana and Cameroon and Nigeria and any other country, you may have to mail in your ballot to the U.S., but you want to talk to your polling station or call the embassy and find out more information. So for those who are mainland U.S., you want to be a resident of that state. And if you're a resident of that state, you at least 30 days before the next election. So there's enough time. You need to, it says be a resident of Illinois and of your election precinct at least 30 days before the next election, like I said. So if you're living in a county or in a state, you need to have lived there at least 30 days before the next election. So the election is in November. We have September, October. So we have 2 months. So go now, don't wait, don't delay. It is free. It does not cost a dime. So go now, register, get counted, put yourself in the system so that you can get your ballots. I'm actually waiting for mine. I did register. I'm actually waiting for mine. So as soon as I have mine, we would develop a little bit more on this. Next, be at least 18 years old on or before the next election. So you see, you have to be 18 on or before the next election. So you have to be on or before the election, which means if you're 18, you have to be 18 on or before the election, or you have to be older than 18. Once you're older than 18, this does not even apply to you. You're already eligible to vote. So if this is for your kids who are turning 18, if they're turning 18, then it has to be on or before the election, right? So on the election day itself, if that's their birthday, then they're eligible to vote. But if they're 18 after the election, then they're not eligible to vote. So they have to be 18 before the election or on the election day itself. So this is for your kids who are turning into adulthood. So you want to take that into consideration. Parents, African parents, you want to make sure you're going to the polling station with your kids who are eligible to vote. It doesn't matter who they're voting for. It is the obligation that they should follow and see the importance of voting. The consequences are greater. Trust me. Okay, next one. Cannot be serving a sentence of confinement in any penal institution as a result of conviction of any crime. Like I said earlier, if people who are in jail right now are not eligible to vote, people who have felonies, and I don't know about misdemeanors, but I have to look into it. But those who are with felonies and crimes or waiting in some kind of penitentiary situations might not be eligible to vote. You want to take that into consideration, because voting under these circumstances is actually even more a crime. So you have to be clearly eligible to vote. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be of the voting age, and you have to not have a criminal past that stops you from voting. I mean, it's not driving violations and tickets. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about serious, heavy crime that you probably did time for it, and or you're having a record right now that stops you from voting. So you want to check to make sure your record is clean, and then you'll be eligible to vote. It is so important that we know these facts, because it is a crime to vote if you actually have a criminal record. Next, not claim the right to vote anywhere else. So you cannot vote in two states. We have that tendency where we came from in Africa. Most African elections, you can vote 24, 50 times. Here, you can vote just once. So if you're a resident of the state of Illinois and you're wealthy enough where you have, again, another home in another state, you cannot vote in Illinois and then go to that other state and vote. You can only vote in one state, and you have access only to one vote. So you want to make sure that we're not trying to do things behind the door in our traditional way of doing stuff. So we want to do stuff clear: one vote, one man, one vote, one woman, one vote. So, like I said, contact your voting bureau. Contact them today. It's Monday. I guarantee you this is going to take under an hour, and you would have your registration, and they will be able to source you out. They'll be able to guide you through the process. So as we're talking, you can open up your computer right now and go to your election. Where do I vote? You could just Google where do I vote? Where do I register to vote? And depending on your state, Google is going to narrow you down to your state, and they would give you the information. If you're not sure, they're going to provide you with the phone number to call. Once you have that phone number, call and register. It is so important that you register. I cannot emphasize this. I cannot re-emphasize this enough. I am talking especially to the parents with young children, to the single mothers and the single fathers out there that have little ones, that have little children. You are a role model to these people. You are a guidance. You are responsible for their future. Their future is not just that you're putting a roof over their head and you're putting meal on the table. Their future is also guiding them, that their dreams, they could dream to be one day like Kamala Harris. I have to be able to tell my daughter that you have to look up to Kamala Harris. I want to be able to guide them through the process so they themselves can see that if Kamala Harris can become the vice presidential nominee for a major political party as a woman of Black descent and Asian descent, then I, as a daughter or as a son from African descent, I could also dream and aspire. But that does not happen overnight. That happens because I vote. I talk to them about voting. So it is important that you educate your children. This topic is about those parents with children who are not going to vote, who are shying away to vote, thinking that it doesn't concern them, it doesn't affect them. What you're doing is you're telling your children to be irresponsible. You're telling your children to not represent the fight that was fought by the pioneers, the people that came before us, that fought the right, the women who fought for the right to vote, the women who fought to get the right to vote. Any woman that's out there that's not going to vote should remember that women fought in this country for you to have the right to vote. So it is so important that you register. Women, you register. It is so important that single mothers with children, married or unmarried, it is so important that you tell your children about the importance of civic duty, the importance of being counted, the importance of being an activist in the political space. Because when we look at Kamala Harris's mother, who came here, her education did not stop her from being a political activist. Her education, this is a woman who was doing a PhD in cancer research. This is a woman, a doctor who has authored so many studies in the United States. It did not stop her that she was a single mother and she wore that on her shoulder. She did what she knew had to be done. Introduce her daughters to understand the importance of being counted. And now we're seeing the daughter who was the district attorney in San Francisco, and later she became the attorney general for California, and later she became the senator for the junior senator for the state of California, and today she's been nominated as the vice president. If she wins, she's one heartbeat away from being the president of the United States, and she is also the first Black and Indian woman. That fits the profile of a lot of our kids. That fits the profile of a lot of immigrant kids across this country. But that's not going to happen overnight if we do not do the work that needs to be done. If we do not get involved in the process. If we are just about parties and fancy clothes and church, and we do not get involved in the political space, we are not teaching our kids. Our kids are not going to make history. Our kids, this country is about history. This country is about how collectively we make this country welcome all of us. So we need our children to get counted. We need our children. We need to be able to see our kids in that space as we see Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has opened the door for all Black little brown girls young aspiring girls, young aspiring boys who have a dream to make it in America. Kamala Harris is their role model, but we need the parents to continue to fight that fight. And it starts by you registering to vote. So we take a commercial break and we'll be back shortly. Thank you, and thank you for being patient. So we've talked at length, and we're going to move on, but we're going to reemphasize the importance to vote. Please go out and register to vote. Please trickle that information to your kids. I want to see so many Black African children, boys and girls, join the political space. I want to be able to see a young mayor that her father, her mom came from Botswana. I want to see a young mayor, a young senator, a young congresswoman, a young governor who was born here, but whose parents were immigrant from any of the African countries: Senegal, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Mali, Sierra Leone, Liberia, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. That is what I want to see. But those things don't happen overnight. Those things happen because us, the parents, us, the adults, we are involved in the political process, and we bring along our children. We cannot let our children just all become doctors. We cannot, which is a good thing. We cannot let all our kids become nurses and architects. We should have our kids shape the future for further Africans. If we want to change Africa as well, if we want to have a partnership with the continent of Africa, we need to have politicians in there that love Africa. We need to have politicians in there that has Africa's best interest at heart, so that way we can have business dealings with Africa at an equitable level. Right? So when France is taking advantage of Africa, guess what? My daughters, your sons, your grandbabies, every other person's grandbaby who's a first generation American but has direct African relatives can step in and say, this is a continent of my parents. I will fight for this continent. I will make sure they're treated fairly. We don't have that representation right now. We are begging others to do the biddings for us, but we have our children who are coming up. So we need to make sure we start to instill that in our children right now, so that when they get there, guess how they're going to look? They're going to look at Africa. They will have America at heart, but they'll also have Africa at heart, so that way Africa is going to step up. So do not be indifferent. It is very important that you register to vote. It is very important that you channel that energy to your children. Africans, I cannot emphasize this enough. I will say this if I have to say this for the entire 1 hour because of the importance. If we have political capital in America, we have set Africa on a path to success. That would be the most important thing that us as a diaspora community has done to elevate Africa into a space of success, into a space of self-sufficiency. So let's make sure we do that. So this is the election cycle, and we've seen all kinds of commercials come up. The importance of voting Trump out of office cannot be stated enough. It's very important that we get him out of Africa, because we need an America that's a leader. We need an America that drives and the world follows. We need an America that is guiding the business and political narrative of most of the world, right? We need an America that's strong from an economic standpoint. We need an America that is strong from a democratic standpoint. So with that being said, I will play a short commercial, and we're going to a short advert that's it's attacking the Trump campaign. And we know that the Republican convention is starting today, and we're seeing that most of the key speakers are all the majority of them are from the Trump family. You saw the diversity of the Democratic Party. You saw that they had a lot of women, they had a lot of minorities, they had even people with disabilities, they had all kinds of people. They had the little boy who stuttered, which was very good. It brings out a lot of diversity, a lot of differences within us. It's the true representation of America. With the Republican convention, we've seen very much a very white-based a Republican platform, and we've seen that a lot of people do not fit within the Republican convention. So we're going to see on the most of the keynote speakers, we have one Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina, who's a black man. He, and that's the flavor. That's one of the only. I think that's the former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. She's an Indian descent too. So they have one or two, three minority people. So I want you guys to look at this advert, this anti-Trump advert, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Thank you.
Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.
For the first time in our memory, many Americans are asking, does history still have a place for America? There are some who answer no, that we must tell our children not to dream as we once dreamed. Together, tonight, let us say that America is still united, still strong, still compassionate, still willing to stand by those who are persecuted or alone. For those who are victims of police states or government-induced torture or terror, let us speak for them. I believe we can embark on a new age of reform in this country that will make government again responsive to people. We can fight corruption while we work to bring into our government women and men of competence and high integrity. Tomorrow, you will be making a choice between different visions of the future. Are you more confident that our economy will create productive work for our society? Or are you less confident? Do you feel you can keep the job you have or gain a job if you don't have one? Are you pleased with the ability of young people to buy a home, of the elderly to live their remaining years in happiness, of our youngsters to take pride in the world we have built for them? Are you convinced that we have earned the respect of the world and our allies? Let us resolve tonight that young Americans will always find a city of hope in a country that is free. And let us resolve they will say of our day and of our generation that we did keep faith with our God, that we did act worthy of ourselves, that we did protect and pass on lovingly that shining city on a hill.
Thank you. That was an impressive commercial, and I need to remind you, Ronald Reagan was elected president in 1981. He had 2 terms, so he was from 1981 to 1989. He is of blessed memory right now. He was the 40th U.S. president. So you could see that we're using footage from a president a man who unfortunately left us. He died, and this was the 40th president, but his words are resonating with us in 2020 as if he were alive, as if he was talking about this in real time. And that's the dire state of this particular election, that we have to use a Republican president to describe the incompetence, the failures, the insecurities, the unassurance, the doubts that cast this country in 2020 on another Republican president. It's a first. It's a first time that this has been done, that we're using the words of a president of blessed memories who was an exceptional president. I mean, he had his flaws, but on large, he was a good president. And we're using his doubts to cast a doubt on this president. That should tell you about the monumental failure that this president has been. And we'll talk about this. So schools have resumed. As an African parent who's probably working 2 jobs, right? You're a nurse, you're a security guard, you're a taxi driver, you're an IT guy, you're whatever it is that you're a business owner. Let me talk to you. So you are not registered to vote, and we have the COVID pandemic that's hitting us, and it's school time. My daughters went to school today, and I almost had a heart attack because I did not know, and I still don't know what the outcome of that school situation is going to be. But they have to go to school because they have to go to school. I don't know how to homeschool. That's not one of my strengths. And by the way, I have to work. So I'm talking to you, a parent that's just like me, a parent that has to work, a parent that is not able to homeschool. Some parents have that gift. Some parents have that ability. So now you have to send your 3-year-old, your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, and above to school within the context of this pandemic. And let me ask you this question. Are you guaranteed you've made the absolute best decision, given that there's no leadership in the White House, given that there's no leadership coming from Washington? As a parent, are you convinced that you have made the best decision for your family? Because your child might go out there, pick out the virus, the child might be asymptomatic, and the child might come back and you catch the virus and you unfortunately die. And some of us Africans, we stay with our parents, our ailing mothers and fathers who have other debilitating conditions. When your child comes back from school, if they pick up the virus from school and they come back home and your mother catches the virus or your father catches the virus, and in 6 months they're in the ICU and they eventually give up the ghost, would you guarantee that you would have made the right decision? And that's because we have no leadership in Washington. Right now, we're going by a leap of faith. Right now, we're putting our hands in God. Right now, we're saying that bless our children. Right now, we're saying that guide our children out there because there is no cure. We don't know what's out there. We don't know what the other kids are bringing. We think our kids are healthy and safe, but we don't know what is out there. And we don't know on day one of the school resumption what is coming back home, right? That's the risk we are taking by having a lack of leadership. And that's why it is so important to vote. That's why when you don't vote, these are the kind of decisions that you're having to make. You're having to just give up making important decisions at a disorganized kind of way. Like I said, sending my kids to school today was one of the hardest decisions any father, any mother should have to make, because we don't know for the safety of that child. There's no vaccine. There's nothing. I have actually just put my kids in harm's way, but I also have to make sure my kids get educated. I also have to make sure my kids go to school and get what they need to get, because they need to be productive members of society. So as a parent, I'm asking you, what decision did you make? Did you vote as a Trump supporter? Did you say the president has done everything to reassure me that my kids can go back to school? It is safe enough for my kids to go back to school. I am not convinced the president has done enough to convince me. I'm not convinced that this outside is safe. I'm right now, I'm dependent that nothing bad befalls my kids or any other kid out there. I'm hoping that these kids, the environment is safe enough for them to study. But that cannot be the guide. That cannot be the process for which science is not taken into consideration. We cannot have a president who is not able to lead us in our doubts. We cannot have a president who is not able to reassure us that everything is fine. Send your kids out there. Nothing is going to happen. We're going to, just like when they had the school shooting, measures were taken to make sure that school was safe. Measures were put in place. When you send your kids to school, you knew a gunman was not going to come and kill your kids. It still happened, but that rate has dropped. What has happened for us by the government to know that our kids going back to school, our kids are safe? As a parent, when you do not vote, when you're not registered to vote, when you don't go to vote in this election cycle, what are you saying? You do not care about the health of your children. You do not care about your own health, and you absolutely do not care about your elderly parents living within your home, or in in a facility. So you're risking your kid's life, you're risking your life, and you're risking the life of your parents, because there is no leadership, because there is no guidance, because there is no authority to tell us what needs to happen. And that's the importance of voting in any elections. You are making the absolute decision that this man who is in the office right now is in over his head. He has had his 5 minutes of fame, and this is the consequence we're experiencing right now for his failed leadership, for his failed guidance. This is his first 4 terms. He has had a major a virus that he is unable to handle. What if the economy crashes in his second term? Let's say the people who don't want to listen to anything still manage to elect Donald Trump in his second presidency, where he really has nothing to run for, or he has no expectations at that point. He's going to be more careless. He's not going to be running for a third term, no matter how hard he tries. He's going to be a lame dog in the second term, which means he's not going to put as much effort as he is putting right now. Let's say in the first year of the second term, there's a major housing crisis, there's a major economic crisis, there's some major another catastrophe. So we've not solved COVID, and we're having to deal with another. Can Trump deal with two major? He has already failed dealing with the first one. Can we risk putting another major crisis in front of the table of a man who has obviously failed the first crisis? Can you put your family under so much duress? There's so many people that are struggling. There's so many mothers. I have a friend who's having to deal with, she has to go back to work. Her company is opening, but she does not know where she's going to put her daughter. She's a single mother. Where does she put her daughter under the circumstances, because she has to work? Can you risk putting your 1-year-old daughter in a nursing not a nursing home, in a kindergarten place, in a facility for kids, as under these conditions? Or do you tell your job, I cannot come to work and I cannot get paid? What are the questions? Does Trump have a solution for this woman? Does Trump have a solution for the struggling single mothers who are out there, who are having to wrestle with these decisions every day? I have to risk taking my child to a daycare and leaving my child there and going to work because I don't have the assurance. This is what is happening right now. Mothers, single fathers across this country are wrestling with this decision. You know why? Because we do not have leadership. We do not have a national plan to address this. All European countries, even China, where this virus started, has had a national plan, has had a plan that kind of like they had a rise, and then they brought down, they implemented a national plan, and then we saw the COVID virus start to deplete, start to take a nosedive. We saw Italy when the arrow went through the roof, and then it's kind of plateaued at that point. And then they had a plan, and now they're out there on vacations and they're doing all kinds of stuff. They're opening for businesses and they're flying back and forth. America has been skyrocketing. Under Trump, we've had the most death under any president. No president since before the Great Depression has seen this amount of job losses, this amount of death. Even 9/11 under Bush did not bring, 3,000 deaths pales in comparison to what we're having. We've had over 100,000 deaths in America as a result of this virus. If it was any other president, this would have destroyed any other president. But there's something about Trump that his supporters have turned a deaf ear. We are all at risk because Trump supporters are putting every one of us, every single one of us, at risk because of their disorganized or their inability to see that the world
To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion, and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.
Thank you. I think some Trump people were trying to interrupt my show, but my technical guy was on top of it, and we're back on air. So, like I was saying, people who are sending their kids back to school are faced with a dire situation, a dire question. Am I doing the right decision? Am I making the right decision? Is this a right call to send my kids to school right now? Am I able to homeschool and work and run a house and all of this stuff? Some people are not cut out for that. Some people are cut out for that. So those who are able to homeschool, kudos to you. But for the majority of people who have to work and send their kids off to have their kids go to school, they're putting their kids in a lot of risk, and they're putting themselves and their life of others at risk, right? Because we don't know what the kids are coming back with. At the end of today, when I go to pick up my kids in under 8 minutes, I would have to be hopeful that it was a beautiful day. They didn't catch anything, because if they caught something, their life is at risk. My life is at risk for picking them up and bringing them home. My wife, my kids, and the baby, and every other person within my circle is immediately at risk. And that's because we do not have leadership. It is so important that you go out, you register to vote. So we have a commander-in-chief who's able to solve this problem. We need this virus under containment. We need to have our lives back. Are you not tired of being at home? Are you not tired of being told that you cannot travel? A lot of people had travel plans. A lot of people had businesses. A lot of people had things to do. And for the last 6 months, we've not been able to do it. Right now, people are just going by themselves and doing whatever they want to do. But that's irresponsible, and that's putting everybody's life at risk. And that's because people know subconsciously that there is no leadership. And when there's a vacuum, when there's a lack of leadership, things like this happen. People do whatever it is they feel like they want to do. So we need to elect a president and a vice president in Kamala Harris who are going to be able to step up on day one and give us a direction, a directive of how we're going to contain this virus, of how we're going to make sure that if the vaccines are coming, how we're going to get those vaccines and how we're going to get life back to where the pre-COVID life. We need to be able to move past this. And right now we live in uncertain times because we do not have leadership. I'm from a country that has no leadership. I'm from Cameroon that has a government that does not exist. And I know firsthand, if you doubt me, type Cameroon government leadership. It does not exist. So I know firsthand about the absence of good governance. When the president is as bad as Donald Trump is, you're decaying and you're dropping into Cameroon style governance where things just happen in abstract. So we cannot afford 4 more years of not knowing what is happening. We cannot have 4 more years of doubt, uncertainty, because it's going to kill us more faster than having a man in there in Joe Biden who's going to be able to listen to the scientists, listen to the experts, and have a national plan so that we guide this country into a brighter future. We collectively, immigrants, minorities, Black, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, collectively white, we can drive this America and make it the America of the future, the America of the 21st century. On that note, we don't have enough reactions, but I would recognize the few people who signed up. Kevin, Ba, Real Talk, thank you, Kev. Etelbi, I understand you're talking about you making the decision to send your kids. That's a tough decision. A lot of mothers, a lot of single mothers, a lot of single fathers out there have had to make that decision today on sending their kids out there, and without a plan. What are we putting our lives to? How risky is it that this would, in the long run, is it going to come back to bite us? Are they going to? A lot of universities are actually closing their doors now because they're seeing a spike in the COVID numbers on college campuses, and that's because we do not have a directive coming from the White House. So we need to make sure we are registered to vote. We need to make sure we are telling our kids that it's important to vote because of these decisions. We don't have leadership right now. Ephraim, my bro, you've always supported me. Thank you. Greetings to you. Thank you. Continue to support, like the page, share the page, and let's continue to have this conversation because as Africans, we have a tendency to just brush off things that would impact our kids, things that would affect our kids, things that would affect our community. Most Africans think that once we've made it, we run into a suburb and we're living with other white people, and we think that that's how life should be. We need to be able to create our own narratives. We need to be able to create our own path. We need to be able to develop our own society that looks like us. One last comment came from James SK. Greetings new to all the herpes. Great news to all the herpes patients over the world. I'm really grateful and thankful what Dr. Kuza has done. I don't know, I think that's some kind of troll or something. We're going to disregard that. Just, when you have a show, people like this come into scammers and people like that come in to distract. So we're not going to give too much time. So thank you for all those. Like the page, like Trend Africa TV, like my take on Trend Africa. Continue to watch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's been your host. And before I forget, go out today. I want to make sure that at least 10 to 15, 20 people register to vote today. Thank you. Good day and enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you.
Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.